Some people dedicate a great deal of their time and financial resources to seeking out and experiencing the paranormal. Others just stumble upon it, almost by accident. Such is the case of two people in Kentucky, where a lovely day of hiking would quickly turn into something they would never forget. August 2014, 21-year-old Nicholasville cafe worker Clifford Austin and his friend were day hiking in the mountains of Winchester, Kentucky. Despite a brief shower, the day was mostly sunny and clear. During the hike, at around 5 p.m., they happened upon a spot with a decent view of the mountains. They decided to stop and relax for a bit, have a look around. It was while taking in the sights that Austin and his friend became alerted to something odd lingering above the trees. My friend and I looked to our right and saw a massive, cigar-shaped UFO amongst the treetops. It covered the range of a valley between two mountains. To Austin, he got the sense that the pilots of said vehicle were attempting to camouflage the object amongst the trees, albeit poorly. He described the craft as being as long as 3 school buses, gray, and with a visible line running down the side of it. But the strangest thing was not the object itself, but what was taking place on top of it. Austin claims that there, on top of the craft, were a number of humanoid-like creatures busily moving about. To him, it appeared as though they were doing some sort of repair. He noted that neither the craft nor the entities were making any noise, at least not that he could hear. Austin and his friend watched them for about a minute, at which point other beings came, in his words, topside. These beings seemed to be aware of the fact that they were being observed. These beings peered directly at Austin and his friend, which, not surprisingly, frightened them. At this point, the two hikers, fearing their lives were in danger, began hastily making their way back down the mountain to their car. They immediately left the area. Austin claims the entire sighting was only about 2 minutes, but it's 2 minutes he will never forget. While alien encounters are strange, they aren't unheard of. I mean, I cover such cases all the time on this channel. Though, what a young boy in Florida saw in his kitchen one evening is less easy to explain. In fact, I've never heard of anything like it. 1986. 5-year-old Timothy Joy was asleep at his Cape Coral, Florida home when something woke him. As his parents slept in the other room, he slowly crawled out of bed and made his way towards the kitchen. It was there he would observe something he probably wasn't supposed to. I awoke from my bed unusually thirsty. When I got up and went to the kitchen, I noticed something extremely strange on my refrigerator. There were shadows of people, about 5 inches tall, on my refrigerator. They were all standing on a horizontal line that was also part of the shadow. They weren't just standing there, though. They were acting out a scene of some sort, kind of like a production, and strangely enough, I sat and watched it. As an adult looking back, Timothy acknowledges that it was very strange, and if the same thing happened now, he would have a much different reaction than he did as a child. I would be very scared of this occurrence, but as a child, I thought it was entertaining, like watching a cartoon. The weird thing is that one of the figures was like an old woman, and I remember seeing her serve food to the other figures. There were about 3 or 4 more. I also think that they danced, but that is a little sketchy in my memory. I didn't remember this occurrence until about 5 years ago. I am 20 now, and when I remembered it, I was a little scared. In a previous video, I discussed a child who claimed that he observed battles playing out almost nightly on his bed, involving tiny-sized beings, though this is the first time I've heard of tiny shadow beings acting out a production. What were they doing? Why were they there? Were they a projection from some other reality, or something else entirely? No doubt skeptics will chalk it up to the imagination of a child, but on the other hand, what if it wasn't? In California, a young girl rouses from her sleep to see something lurking in her closet. It frightened her so badly that, to this day, she cannot sleep without a light on. In the early 2000s, 7-year-old Corrine, no last name was provided, was living with her parents and 2 sisters in a small house in Puente, California. She shared a room with her 2 sisters. In their room was a closet, the kind with sliding doors on a track that folded out. Usually they were closed, but on this night they were open part ways. One night I woke up. I don't know what time it was, but it must have been late because everyone else was asleep in the house. All in bed, all nestled in for the night. My bed was situated to where it was facing the closet doors. As I glanced over at them, an orange glowing man peeked around the door of the closet and looked right at me. He was smiling. Corrine claims that this was not a comforting smile. It was more sinister. She became horrified at what she was looking at. His fingers wrapped around the frame of the door first, and then he poked his head out. Now, from what I can remember, he kind of looked like the Joker from the original Batman series, and glowed from within. I was so scared, I couldn't make a sound. Corrine claims that she immediately buried her face in her pillow and did not move until the next morning. When I told my parents what had happened, they told me it was just a dream. I know it wasn't a dream. I remember my heart racing and how hard it was to breathe while hiding my face in the pillow. In the same house, I witnessed a pair of shoes take a step with no one in them, and I watched a Barbie doll fall over and sit itself back up all by itself. Was Corrine experiencing a sleep paralysis, hypnagogic hallucination, or had whatever was haunting her house manifested itself into the form of a clown, not unlike it? There are a large number of paranormal cases in which witnesses describe encountering supernatural clowns or Joker-like entities. These types of cases are often associated with hauntings and ghosts, but not always. In the book Ultra-Terrestrial Contact, there is a case involving a Joker-like entity cited in conjunction with a UFO encounter. Large hairy bipedal creatures are also sometimes associated with UFO sightings. While some researchers refuse to acknowledge said link, often snarkily dismissing the topic or referring to it as nonsense woo, the fact remains said cases do exist, and simply ignoring them because they don't line up with your personal beliefs isn't getting you or anyone else closer to the truth. In Pennsylvania, 2 witnesses observed strange lights in the woods around their property. As they set out to investigate, things go from weird to downright terrifying. It was December 23, 1977, 7:30 p.m. 2 witnesses in a rural area in Trent, Pennsylvania, watch as an oval-shaped object with a string of lights on top and bottom circle overhead. As it was dark, they rushed inside to retrieve a flashlight. They immediately noticed that the object had moved away. About 50 yards, it was now hovering over some trees nearby. They watched in shock as the object began to spin, tilt downwards, and then descend below the trees down into the forest. As the pair contemplated venturing into the darkened woods to have a look, that's when a nasty stench filled the air. They described it as smelling like rotting flesh. Just then they began to hear a strange whistling sound coming from the woods, which was adjacent to their property. They looked over in that direction with their flashlights. That's when they caught sight of something that truly frightened them. Standing there watching them was a creature that they described as standing 8 feet tall and was ape-like. They noted that it had light brown hair, an egg-shaped head, a long neck, long dangling arms, and 2 glowing white eyes. After staring at them for a brief period of time, the creature then turned and bolted off into the woods. Moments later, the witnesses observed a bright white flash of light from the direction of the woods in which the creature had run, followed by numerous loud booms. It is unclear what was happening in Trent that December night. Was the Bigfoot-like creature observed by the 2 witnesses actually attempting to evade the craft, which was there to collect it, or was the creature an occupant of the craft witnessed by the people? At the end of the day, the "Are Bigfoot and UFOs linked?" debate will rage on for years to come, and I will be enjoying every second of it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video.